I'm Jessica, and at 56, I thought I had life all figured out: 25 years of marriage, a home filled with memories, and a husband whose smile could light up my darkest days. But one night, in the glitz of a downtown hotel suite, surrounded by laughter and clinking glasses, my world shattered in a way I never saw coming. A single moment, orchestrated by the man I trusted most, left me questioning everything I believed about love, loyalty, and the life we built together. Now, as I stand on the ruins of what once was, I'm forced to uncover a truth so devastating it could change everything. What really happened that night? And who is the stranger I've been married to all these years? Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of a memory, staring into a past that feels both like a warm embrace and a sharp blade. My name is Jessica, and at 56, I've lived enough to know that life can turn on a dime, slicing through everything you thought was solid. I've always been the kind of woman who keeps her cards close, a quiet soul who finds strength in the unspoken bonds of loyalty and trust. For me, those weren't just words. They were the foundation of every relationship I held dear. I was married to Robert for over 25 years, a man I believed I knew better than I knew myself. He's in his late 50s now, still carrying that magnetic energy that draws people in. Robert was always the heart of any room, the guy whose laughter could fill a space, whose charm made everyone feel like they mattered. He had friends everywhere, a sprawling circle that orbited around his light. Among them were Mark, a tall, reserved man in his early 50s who always seemed to watch more than he spoke, and Linda, a vibrant woman in her late 40s who loved nothing more than to throw open her doors for gatherings that stretched into the early hours. I often lingered on the edges of those nights, content to watch Robert shine while I sipped my drink in the background. Our life together, Robert's and mine, was a tapestry woven with care. We raised 2 children, now grown and carving their own paths, in a small suburban town where the air always smelled faintly of freshly cut grass. I can still see us on our porch, sharing quiet evenings as the sun dipped low, talking about nothing and everything. We weathered storms, financial struggles. It was one of those Saturday mornings where the world feels slow, like time itself is taking a deep breath. I was in the kitchen, the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filling the air, when Robert bounded in with a grin that could light up the darkest room. His eyes were practically sparkling as he leaned against the counter, watching me pour the hot brew into my favorite chipped mug. He couldn't wait to spill the news. He'd been invited to a little get-together with his friends at a swanky hotel downtown, and he wanted me to come along. My heart did a little dip. I've never been the social butterfly Robert is. His friends are kind enough, but their booming laughter and tight-knit banter often leave me feeling like an outsider looking in. I hesitated, stirring my coffee a bit too long, but he pressed on with that infectious enthusiasm of his, promising it'd be a laid-back night, just drinks and chatter in a rented suite. He said it'd be a chance to unwind, to reconnect, especially since we felt a bit like ships passing in the night lately, with the kids gone and his long hours at work. I couldn't say no to that hopeful look in his eyes, so I nodded, a reluctant smile tugging at my lips, hoping maybe this could be a small step toward bridging the quiet distance between us. The rest of the day, I wrestled with a cocktail of nerves and curiosity. I spent far too long standing in front of my closet, finally settling on a simple navy dress and flats. Nothing flashy, just enough to blend into the background. As evening rolled around, we climbed into the car, the hum of the engine a steady backdrop to my racing thoughts. We pulled up to the hotel, its towering glass facade reflecting the city lights, like a mirror to a world I wasn't sure I belonged in. The lobby was all marble and gold trim, the kind of place that makes you feel small just walking through it. We took the elevator up to the suite, the soft ding of each floor passing like a countdown to something I couldn't name. When the doors opened, the hum of voices and clinking glasses spilled out, and Robert squeezed my hand, pulling me into the warmth of the room with a grin. I forced a smile, nodding at familiar faces as I settled into the evening, hoping to find my footing. Hours slipped by, and I found myself on a plush couch near a wide window, the city sprawling out below like a sea of flickering stars. I was tired, my eyelids heavy, but there was a quiet contentment in watching Robert work the room. His laughter had grown louder with each drink, his gestures more animated, and I couldn't help but smile at how alive he looked. Then, out of nowhere, his voice cut through the buzz, calling my name with a playful edge that made my stomach twist in a way I couldn't explain. He was standing near the minibar with Mark, waving me over with a grin that felt both familiar and foreign. I hesitated, my fingers tightening around the stem of my glass, but curiosity nudged me forward. I crossed the room, my flat silent on the carpet, a nervous smile tugging at my lips as I wondered what he was up to. When I reached them, Robert slung an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close in a way that felt too casual for the glint in his eyes. He leaned in, his voice low but teasing, saying he wanted to try something new to shake up the night. My brow furrowed, confusion mixing with a flicker of unease, but I played along, asking what he meant. The room seemed to shrink around us, or maybe that was just my imagination, as he looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Then, in front of everyone, he told me to get close to Mark, real close. He wanted me to wrap my arms around him in a tight embrace. I stumbled away from that moment near the minibar, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, the weight of everyone's eyes burning into my skin. I couldn't stay there, not with the air thick with whispers and unspoken judgments. I made a beeline for the bathroom, my hands trembling as I turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on my face. The icy shock did little to calm the storm inside me, but I took a deep breath, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked hollow, haunted by what had just unfolded. I had to get out of here, away from this suite, away from the suffocating tension. I dried my face, squared my shoulders, and stepped back into the room. My mind made up. I was leaving, with or without Robert. I kept my gaze down, avoiding Mark's quiet presence and the curious glances from others. My skin still crawled, a lingering unease that made every step feel heavier. I spotted Robert near the window, laughing with Linda as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just turned my world upside down with his so-called game. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to walk over. I touched his arm lightly, pulling him aside, my voice low but firm as I said, "I want to go home. Now." He turned to me, surprise flickering across his face before it morphed into annoyance. He sighed, rolling his eyes a little, and muttered that I was overreacting, that it was just a harmless bit of fun. His words stung sharper than the moment itself, cutting into the trust I'd clung to for so long. I bit my tongue, not wanting to make a scene in front of his friends, though every fiber of me wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded tightly, and within a few minutes we were heading out, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. The car ride home was suffocating. Neither of us spoke, the silence thicker than the city fog outside. I stared out the window, watching the streetlights blur into streaks of light, my mind replaying the night over and over. Disgust coiled in my chest, tangled with confusion. How could I have been carrying the weight of that night in the hotel suite like a stone in my chest, and it's been weeks since it happened? Every day, I wake up with the memory clawing at me, replaying Robert's words, that unsettling glint in his eyes as he pushed me toward something I couldn't fathom. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind of questions. Was that moment just a reckless slip, fueled by too many drinks? Or was it a glimpse into something he'd been hiding all along? Some unspoken desire he never dared share with me? I can't shake the feeling that I don't know him anymore, that the man I've shared my life with for over 2 decades is a stranger wearing a familiar face. As the days drag on, I start seeing things I'd brushed aside before. The way Robert makes plans without a word to me, assuming I'll just go along. The way he's always quick to drop everything for his friends, leaving me to fend for myself on nights I thought we'd spend together. I feel invisible in my own home, like I'm living in the shadow of a marriage that no longer exists. It's suffocating, this slow unraveling of everything I thought was real. I've tried to talk to him, to bridge the chasm between us, but every attempt fizzles into silence or deflection. I'm drowning in doubt, and I can't keep pretending everything's fine. One evening, after another dinner where we barely exchange a glance, I know I can't hold it in any longer. My heart is hammering as I ask him to sit with me in the living room. The couch feels like a battlefield, the space between us charged with everything I've been too afraid to say. I take a shaky breath and let it out, my voice trembling but steady enough to carry the weight of my words. I tell him I can't move past what happened that night, that it shattered something fundamental in me. I trusted him to protect my heart, to honor the boundaries of our bond, and he crossed a line I never imagined he'd even approach. I ask him point blank if there's something he's not. Here I am, months after that final, heart-wrenching conversation with Robert, sitting in the quiet of a new life I never imagined I'd have to build at 56. The divorce wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a slow, aching unraveling of 25 years. Dividing our belongings felt like carving up pieces of my soul. Every photo album, every piece of furniture held a memory, a fragment of a shared dream. I remember standing in our old living room, staring at the worn-out couch where we'd watched countless sunsets through the window, and realizing it was no longer ours. I took what I needed and moved into a small apartment across town, a place with bare walls and unfamiliar echoes. The legalities were a maze of cold paperwork and colder meetings, each signature a step further from the life I knew, each court date a reminder of the betrayal that fractured everything. Those first few months alone were a kind of loneliness I'd never known. I'd sit in my new space, surrounded by unpacked boxes, the silence so heavy it felt like a physical weight. I missed the rhythm of our old life, the sound of Robert's footsteps in the morning, the hum of our shared routines, but not the pain that tainted it all. That night in the hotel suite still haunted me, a ghost I couldn't shake, replaying in my mind during the quietest hours. I felt adrift, like I'd lost not just a partner, but a part of who I was. So, I reached out for help, something I'd never done before. I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman with a gentle voice who helped me unpack the tangled mess of emotions tied to that night. She guided me through the anger, the shame, the grief, and slowly, I began to rebuild my confidence, brick by fragile brick. As the weeks turned into months, I started rediscovering pieces of myself I'd long buried. I picked up painting again, a passion I'd set aside years ago to focus on family. There's something healing in the stroke of a brush, in creating color out of chaos, and I'd lose hours in my little studio corner, letting my emotions spill onto the "Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you."